Hello, welcome back to AusBears. You've tuned in to the small caps. I'm taking a look at it today and a bit later chatting with Richard Irving, Fluence Corporation chairman, after we talked about the company on the call yesterday. But first, let's check in on the small cap market, starting with some of the ETFs which track the sector. iShares Small Ords having a slight gain there, but generally down. Let's check the small cap stocks that are moving at this stage of the session as well. Printing Global up almost 16% on a good update today. Catapult, which of course is the high performance athletic tracking system that most AFL clubs, their high performance guys use, high performance coaches use it, not only here but in professional sports teams around the world. And some of the small caps down today, leading the downward trend. And Serata Split It, which is in that financial sector that's being absolutely hammered at the moment, and 4D Medical is down as well. Now we know the general lay of the small caps plan to get a bit of an update, particularly in this era of higher interest rates. Niv Dagan from Peak Asset Management joins us to take us through the sector. Niv, everybody watching to see what the RBA is doing this afternoon on the sidelines, but then we have European Central Bank later in the week. What's the impact on the small cap sector, not only here but overseas?
David, it's been a really, really tough month for equities across the board. We've obviously got the Reserve Bank meeting today. We are expecting 25 basis points, but some are saying 50 basis points. We're already seeing auction clearance rates fall, consumer business confidence down, trading volume subdued, and then we've got the US inflation figures coming out this Friday, our morning. The market's expecting 0.7% increase. Any sign that's higher than expected, we'll see probably another sell-off. So there's a lot of data coming through.
Okay, so in a situation like this, what do you do as a private investor that's interested in small caps? I always say there's a time to buy, a time to sell, and a time just to stay on the sidelines. Is it a sideline time?
Look, when you're a doubt, you stay out. I think it's very, very difficult at the moment. We've seen, obviously, macroeconomic data worse than expected. The slowdown in China, we've been mentioning a quarter of the world's shipping cargoes are still stuck there in Shanghai because of the COVID recovery. So look, we'll be watching China opening up towards the end of the month. But going back to your questions, it's really sitting tight. Those are investors that have a little bit more of a longer term, medium term outlook. I'm saying not over days, but in 3, 6, 12 months. There are some bargains coming through as tax loss selling is starting to exacerbate and worn out. So we have been in the market looking for some value across the board. Okay,
so you're starting to see tax loss selling coming in now, are you? And which areas are suffering the most?
Absolutely. I mean, we think that tax loss selling actually also has magnitude the falls. Whether there will be some window dressing towards the end of the month is questionable. The buy now, pay later space, David, has been absolutely smashed overall. I mean, we've seen Zip Money, Sezzle, LBY, Afterpays, the Squares of the world are down anywhere between 80 to 95%, which is just incredible with what's occurred from the market darling. So technology space across the board, even the Zeros, the PointsBet, across the APENs of the world have been slashed. So we are looking for some value. Those companies that don't need to raise capital and have a very, very strong balance sheet, they are sitting on a lot of cash with a strong balance sheet and a strong outlook. We're happy to buy. Natural gas has been very, very topical of late. There's a huge crisis that has emerged. So we have been in the market buying some value coming through in some of the producers as well.
Okay. All right. So with the natural gas, most people are looking at the Santos's, the world, to a certain extent. Woodside is what about at the lower end, the smaller cap end of the market?
Look, one company that we're actually participating in the rights issue is a company called Bass Oil. They've just actually picked up some positive EPS and cash flow assets out of Beach in the Cooper Basin, but they've also got a gas field Kiwi #1, which is very, very interesting. We're just in the middle of a rights offer. So the stock code is BAS, BAS, 7 million market cap. Really, really interesting, given that they're going to be cash flow positive in the next month or so. The second one is Lion Energy, LIO. They're essentially got some assets in Indonesia. They will be drilling Odin next quarter, but they have been stuck in the whole renewable side from oil to green hydrogen. So Lion is another one in a microcap space that we're keeping an eye on. And a third one is a company called Icon. ICN is a stock code. They've got a huge gas field right next to Santos. They'll probably need about $15 million to drill that, David. But those three are probably BAS, LIO, and ICN are sort of the smaller microcaps we're keeping an eye on and happy to accumulate.
Yeah, interesting. Karoon came up on the call the other day with Gaurav Sodhi and Nathan Somasundaram, who liked it in that sector as well on a pullback. It's had a major run up, but getting back under $2. So there are opportunities there, aren't they, apart from the big boys?
Oh, there are opportunities, and we saw just across, obviously we talked about natural gas. We've talked about the buy now, pay later space, but also even yesterday we were catching up with the CEO actually in a few hours. A company called CPO, they announced I think 173 meters at over 1% copper. Goldman Sachs JBWE said, look, copper is essentially the commodity that they're expecting a big re-rate on. So CPO is a stock code that was up over 200% at one stage yesterday. So there are some money coming into
that's Calpio, is it?
Correct.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So there's a call this afternoon with the CEO, is there?
Yeah, we're catching up with Max this afternoon in a few hours just to get a better understanding of the hits and what to expect. So there are money coming into specific stocks, specific sectors, David. So it's not all doom and gloom.
No. Galileo came up on the call not long, I think last week, and the panel on the call then were pretty encouraging, and we followed up with an interview of the MD. They look to be in a really good spot as well.
Well, they had a huge hit, huge discovery. I think 33 meters. I mean, the market was really excited about the palladium, platinum, and also rhodium. So the stock went for a bit of a run from 20 cents all the way to $2. I think it's sitting around $1.65 still. And the one next door is called CNJ that hasn't drilled just yet. So what we're trying to highlight, David, there's definitely some opportunities for the microcap, nanocap space, and there is still money there looking for the right opportunity.
Yeah, no, it's a really interesting space. Niv, really appreciate your time. Thanks for running us through it.
Thanks, David. Cheers.
Good on you. Niv Dagan there from Peak Asset Management. All right, let's focus in on an actual small cap today, and lucky enough to talk about Fluence Corporation. I discussed the company on the call yesterday with Nathan Somasundaram and Gaurav Sodhi. The guys had great things to say about the purpose of the business, but they both wanted to pose one question to management, and that is, what is the path to profitability? So I thought we'd go to the horse's mouth, so to speak, with great respect. The chairman of Fluence, Richard Irving. Richard, really appreciate your time. As I say, caught the attention of our analysts that we had on the call yesterday. First of all, give us a bit of background on what Fluence does. It's in that water waste disposal area, isn't it? And the cleanup of it.
Absolutely. Well, look, all the water that's ever been in the world is still here. The problem is a lot of it is not usable. Whether it's wastewater or salty water, we have to turn it into good water. This is what Fluence does. And water is a massive ESG theme. If you're interested in sustainability, water is the way to go. And Fluence is a very strong player in that space because of the fact that our systems are so energy efficient and they emit far fewer pollutants that contribute to atmospheric warming than other technologies. And so this is all, I think, a very, very strong part of our story.
Okay, what's all the technology based on? Is that being developed internally?
Absolutely. And that's what's so interesting about wastewater treatment, which of course is what most normal people wouldn't spend a lot of time thinking about. But wastewater treatment is very energy intensive, and it's been based on a lot of brute force techniques. Today, with Fluence's technology, it's like the lung breathing, and therefore it's extremely energy efficient. I would invite your viewers to check out our website, and you can see a lot more information on this. But it creates a situation where you're using about 90% less energy, and consequently is a huge breakthrough in wastewater treatment. Now we have more than 300 plants based on that technology.
Okay, give us a rundown of typical clients. You help out airports and governments and councils, don't you?
Absolutely. You know, it's going to be, for example, we've had a lot of early success in China, more than almost 300 plants just in China alone. But we're now branching out from China to the world. We've seen deployments in Southeast Asia, in the Philippines and Vietnam, in Taiwan, in the Philippines. And we've also seen a lot of deployments in the US and the Caribbean, where people are very concerned about energy, and also where people are concerned about sustainability. In other words, if you can take wastewater, something that is obviously a dangerous thing if you discharge it into the environment without treatment, and turn it into something you can safely reuse, that's far, far cheaper than taking seawater and trying to take the salt out of it.
Right.
And so that's one of the key things that we do.
And I suppose we're beautifully positioned here because as the developing world gets economically more developed, they sort of switch their attention to environmental issues, whereas previously they were almost in survival mode and development mode, wasn't it? Now they can focus on this area, and you're positioned to sell up there.
Absolutely, in the developing world, yes, where there's a lot of new infrastructure that's being deployed, like our plants, for example, in Cambodia, tremendously successful in bringing the first biological wastewater treatment, the high standard of wastewater treatment to that country, but also just here, you know, in the US, also in Australia. There's such a huge need if you can turn bad water, wastewater, into something that you can safely reuse, not to drink, but for irrigation and toilet flushing and air conditioning. It's a much, much cleaner and easier and cheaper way to go than building desalination plants. And in dry continents and dry regions like where I live here in California, I think it's extremely important to do that.
Yep. Both Nathan and Gaurav, our analysts yesterday, said, look, we want this company to succeed. It's one of those companies where has great technology, you want it to work, but from an investment point of view, what's the path to profitability?
Well, if we wind back to 2020, we were EBITDA positive in 2020. We were EBITDA positive in 2021. So 2 years of EBITDA positive is a very good start. The key thing that we have achieved in recent months is bringing in what I would describe as the all-star team to strengthen our management.
Right.
So a veteran Tom Pekorski of the water and wastewater industries in North America, in China, in Israel, and also a Rick Cisterna, our Chief Strategy Officer, who has a huge expertise in selling plants to people who want to just have their water paid per unit instead of buying a plant.
Right.
And this is a much, much, much more efficient way to go in terms of capital. In other words, you don't have to shell out a penny for a plant. You just pay for the water. It's like somebody who comes to your house and says, we'll put rooftop solar on there and we'll sell you cheaper electricity. That's what we can do.
Right.
And this works very well in the developing world.
So as chair of the business, it's that stage of the business, is it, where you've got the technology right, you've got to invest in the executive team to really maximize the return on the technology. You're happy with the technology and the development, now you've got to tell the world and sell it.
I think that's exactly right, because in Asia, for example, we've had tremendous success. I mentioned China and Southeast Asia, but it's time to take that success to the world. Now, I'll give you a simple example. It's a small one, but it's one that I think will resonate with many of your viewers, which is everybody knows who Elon Musk is, I suspect. And Elon Musk, has a major launch facility in South Texas where the Starship rocket will be launching from. The entire wastewater of that community is recycled and turned into reusable water by Fluence's systems. So that's just an example of a very, very state-of-the-art facility that's using our technology because it's so effective.
Richard, you've got to put your marketing hat on. Everyone leverages off Elon Musk. There are so many lithium explorers here in Australia that've got, oh, we're in talks with Tesla and Elon Musk, and the share price has shot up.
Well, I'm trying to contact him on Twitter. I will tell you when I hear from him.
But you're actually doing it though, aren't you?
Tesla's our installation. It's operating and operating very well.
What a great story. Thank you so much for joining us and telling us about it. Appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thank you, David.
Richard Irving there, the chair of Fluence. Of course, get your own independent advice before making an investment decision. But that's what I love about the small cap segment, that we can talk about smaller companies on the call one day, and there are a few question marks about the company, and then we actually get one of the executives, or in this case, Richard being the chairman, on. So a fascinating sort of development there in the business. Technology is right. Big customers, good customers, like Elon Musk with the rocket business that he's got there, SpaceX, that Fluence is providing the wastewater treatment for it, but now needed to boost the executive team. So it's all of the common business issues that most organisations face, but really terrific to get an update on that. Well, that's the small caps for today. Join us tomorrow for more small cap news. Coming up, cracking crypto. Stick around.